Impact segment tonight, the Talking Points memo, how the far left is handling the U.S. military. The Houston Chronicle is a committed left newspaper. Its editorial page, liberal down the line. Yesterday, that paper said this about U.S. soldiers killed in Iraq, quote, the Bush administration still refuses to allow coverage of returning flag-draped coffins. Certainly no family should have media coverage forced upon them, but many would consider it more respectful to see their soldiers' final homecoming honored rather than hidden. And other Americans could see that image and stop for a moment in their own safe living rooms to offer their silent respect and gratitude to particular soldiers in particular coffins, real people, not just numbers in the latest tally of casualties. So the Houston Chronicle believes that showing coffins on TV and in the papers will lead to more respect for our valiant troops. Now, a cynic might say this is a ruse, that the Chronicle wants to show coffins to add more emotion to the Iraq debate. A cynic might say that and point to the fact that the Houston Chronicle has consistently opposed the Iraq War. An honest reporter might then ask the Chronicle what it has done to respect the U.S. Armed Forces. According to Naomi Engel, a public affairs coordinator at the Chronicle, not much. While the Chronicle contributes to charities like the March of Dimes and the Houston Public Library, among others, it has not given one penny to any veterans organizations. Now, that might just be an oversight. Talking Points can't read minds. I have no idea if the Houston Chronicle wants more respect for the troops killed in action or wants to use their deaths to hammer the war. I just don't know. But a healthy skepticism is in context here. But there is no doubt about the intention of NBC News Washington Post analyst William Arkin. As we've been reporting, and most left-wing media ignoring, Arkin believes U.S. forces are mercenaries and our lucky Americans don't spit upon them. That point of view has brought immense pressure on Arkin, NBC News, and the Washington Post. In his latest writing for the Post, Arkin says this, quote, the torrents of other mail, biting, fanatical, threatening, represent the worst of polarized and hate-filled America. I'm not complaining about being criticized or being made the latest punching bag for those who subsist of high-volume conquest, nor am I apologizing for being critical of the military. Now, the Factor called the Washington Post and NBC News and asked how much they're paying Arkin, which is curious. The Post and NBC would not give up that information. And both news agencies still will not publicly distance themselves from Arkin's comments. It's funny. He objects to a, quote, hate-filled America, yet apparently doesn't understand that his anti-military screed is off the chart hateful and hurtful to our warriors and their families. But that is the far left for you. Ideology over everything else. And that's the memo. Now, for another view on this, joining us from San Antonio, Texas, San Diego's in California, Colonel Ken Allard, who recently left NBC News, where he was a military analyst for 10 years. He's the author of the book Warheads, Cable News, and the Fog of War. Did you ever run into this guy, Arkin, when you were at NBC for 10 years?
Yeah, Bill, I sure did, because, again, during some of the intense part of the era right after 9/11, particularly during the war in Iraq, we were all thrown into the coverage, and yeah, more than once I was on with Bill Arkin.
Now, is he a loon, or what's his deal?
He's not really, I would not characterize him that way, but it was very clear to me that he was very much to the left of center, which in a network that needs to be diverse, they pride themselves on having a variety of perspectives, including his.
Okay, but we asked them for their contributor list, interestingly enough, to see how many conservatives and how many liberals they have. They wouldn't give it up, even though Fox News contributors posted on our website. You can see who's saying what to whom. Now, you wrote a column today for the San Antonio Express. Right. What did that column say?
It basically reviewed that blog by Bill Arkin and said it was really kind of beyond the pale. And I simply thought that it was entirely consistent with some other things he's written, some other things he's done, and I found it remarkable that NBC News had not let him go. Because as I point out in my book, there's a long, but it's unwritten, but it's a well-understood rule. You do not do anything to embarrass the network. You can have any opinion you want, but you do not embarrass NBC News. Now, I thought he had. Do
you think Arkin is a military hater? Does he just hate? Why would you say they're lucky not to be spit upon and they're mercenaries? Well, he knows better than that, and they're not paid enough to be anybody's mercenary.
And anybody saying that on a network like NBC, I simply thought that was why he was beyond the pale.
He didn't say it on NBC. He said it in the Washington Post.
He said it in his blog.
But obviously NBC News hasn't distanced themselves from it. But do you think he's a hater of the military?
I don't think he's a hater. I think really more than anything else, his view was colored by the 1970s, which was the era in which he served briefly in the U.S. Army.
Okay. Now, in your column, because we got the whole column, the San Antonio Express cut out your criticism of NBC. Why did they do that?
I'm not really sure, but I think it probably had more to do with space limitations and
Space
also
limitations.
making sure that...
It doesn't have to do with San Antonio Express, a liberal paper, does it?
Well, it's a liberal paper, but don't forget they had me on there.
No, I understand that, but they have to have some dressing.
Toughly.
But they cut out the NBC News criticism in the San Antonio Express, which I thought was very, very interesting because it was a very important part of your column. Now, you left NBC News. Why?
Right. Well, partly because of the fact I suffered a stroke this last summer.
Okay, so it was a health reason and the other thing. But in your column, you criticized that network. Why?
Well, partly because of the fact that this is also the network of Tom Brokaw, and as you see the fact that there's been an evolution in standards, I saw MSNBC as kind of backing off the hard news. They do a lot more crime time and prime time now than they ever used to, and I think they've simply avoided some of the hard news, including the military stuff.
Now, what about ideology? I've said that NBC News in general has taken a sharp turn to the left, feeling that the country has gone that way. As you know, 10 years ago, or even 6 years ago, NBC News, pretty fair, and they were not the far left people they are now. Have you noticed?
Bill, one of my vivid memories is working with Rick Kaplan when we did the commemoration of the D-Day invasions. And to have that kind of a network taking the positions or not refuting the positions of Bill Arkin, I found that remarkable.
I did too.
I still do.
We were all stunned. I mean, all they had to do over there was say, look, here's a guy writing on a Washington Post. This is outrageous, but no. I mean, they're standing by their man, won't tell us how much they're paying them and all that business. Colonel, we wish you the best. You've made a very remarkable recovery from your stroke, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I know you've worked hard, and you really have, and we appreciate you coming on today. And late this